Before we begin, subscribe to this channel right now. And do not skip a second. What happened in this house changed 2 lives forever. And if you miss even one moment, you will not understand why a powerful man chose to risk everything for a maid who was never supposed to be seen. She was not lazy. She was not careless. She was just tired. The house stood on a hill outside the city. It was cold and silent inside, even during the day. The floors were white stone. The walls had paintings that cost more than the maid's whole life. She cleaned every corner of that house 6 days a week. She left before sunrise and returned to her small rented room long after dark. She sent most of her pay to her sick mother. The billionaire who owned the house was a man the news called cold and impossible to please. He built a tech empire from nothing. He trusted numbers more than people. He did not smile in photos. He did not attend parties unless it made him money. And he never noticed the staff. That day, he was supposed to be in another state for meetings. The staff relaxed a little. The maid had been awake for almost 20 hours. Her mother had called at midnight, crying from pain. Hospital bills were growing. The maid worked faster that morning, trying not to think about it. She entered his bedroom last. It was huge. The bed looked too big for one person. She had never touched it before except to change the sheets. As she finished cleaning, she sat down for just 1 second. Just to rest her back. Her eyes closed. She did not mean to fall asleep. But her body gave up. She lay there, still in her simple uniform, shoes still on. For the first time in months, she felt soft sheets under her head. For the first time she was not standing. The front door opened downstairs. He was back early. No one expected him. He walked through the house quietly, checking emails on his phone. He climbed the stairs without sound. He pushed open his bedroom door. And he stopped. A maid was asleep in his bed. He did not shout. He did not call security. He stood there watching her. And what he did next, no one would have believed. He closed the door gently behind him. She did not wake up. He walked closer to the bed. He had fired people for less. He had removed managers for simple mistakes. But this was different. She looked pale. Her hands were dry and red from cleaning chemicals. There were dark circles under her eyes. He noticed something else. She was shivering. The room was cold. The air conditioning was always set low. He reached for the remote and turned it off. That was the first unthinkable thing. He had never adjusted anything for anyone. He stood there longer than he should have. He tried to wake her. He said, "Mississippi." She did not move. His jaw tightened. For 1 second he thought she was sick. He stepped closer and lightly tapped her shoulder. Her eyes flew open. The moment she saw him, her face lost all color. She jumped off the bed so fast she almost fell. She started apologizing over and over. Her voice shook. She said she would leave. She said she would accept any punishment. She begged him not to fire her. He stared at her. He expected anger inside himself. Instead he felt something strange. Concern. He asked her one question. "When was the last time you slept?" She froze. No employer had ever asked her that. She tried to lie. But her eyes filled with tears. She told him about her mother. About the hospital. About working 2 extra night shifts at another cleaning job. The room felt smaller. He turned away from her and walked to the window. His reflection stared back at him in the glass. He had built an empire worth billions. But he had never noticed the people cleaning his own house. He turned back to her and said something that shocked her even more than being caught in his bed. "Sit down." She thought she misheard. He repeated it. She slowly sat at the edge of the bed again, shaking. He picked up his phone. She thought he was calling security. He was not. He was calling his private doctor. The doctor arrived within 30 minutes. The other staff whispered downstairs. Something serious must have happened for the boss to call his personal doctor to the house. She kept saying she was fine. She said she just needed to go back to work. But the doctor checked her blood pressure and frowned. It was dangerously low. She was exhausted and dehydrated. The billionaire stood there the whole time. The doctor said clearly, "If she keeps living like this, she will collapse." The words stayed in the room like smoke. After the doctor left, the maid stood up again. She said she was sorry for causing trouble. She said she would pack her things before he could fire her. He stopped her. "I did not say you were fired." She blinked. He walked to his desk and opened a drawer. He took out a folder. Inside were staff contracts. He tore hers in half. Her heart dropped. She thought that was it. Then he said, "You are not a maid anymore." Her breath caught. "You will work directly under me. Fewer hours. Double pay." She stared at him like he had spoken another language. He continued, "Your only job is to manage my home schedule and personal tasks. And you will sleep properly." She felt dizzy again, but this time not from weakness. Why would he do this? He did not answer the question she was too afraid to ask. The truth was simple. When he saw her sleeping, he remembered something he had buried for years. His own mother had worked 3 jobs when he was a boy. She had fainted once in front of him. No one helped her. He had promised himself that when he became powerful, he would never be powerless again. But somewhere along the way, he forgot what that promise meant. Now, looking at this tired young woman, he remembered. What he did not know was that someone else had seen her in his bedroom, and that someone was already planning to use it against them both. The head housekeeper had been with the billionaire for 10 years. She controlled the staff with fear. She did not like change. And she did not like the maid getting special treatment. She took a photo earlier. Just one. The maid asleep in the billionaire's bed. She sent it anonymously to a gossip site. By morning the story exploded online. "Billionaire secret affair with maid." The headline spread fast. Investors began calling. Board members demanded answers. His company stock dropped within hours. He sat in his office watching the numbers fall. Across town, the maid saw the news on her old phone. Her stomach dropped. She went straight to him and offered to resign publicly. She said she would tell everyone it was her fault. She would protect his reputation. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "No." He called a press conference. Reporters filled the room. Cameras flashed. The maid stood behind him, shaking. He stepped up to the microphone and said calmly, "The woman in the photo is an employee who collapsed from exhaustion while working. I found her and called a doctor. That is the full story." A reporter shouted, "Why promote her then?" He did not hesitate. "Because she works harder than anyone in this building. And I reward loyalty and effort." Silence filled the room. He could have denied everything and fired her to protect himself. He did not. He chose her dignity over his comfort. The head housekeeper watched from home, angry that her plan failed. But she was not finished. That night, someone broke into the maid's small apartment. She returned home late after the press conference. Her hands were still shaking from the cameras. When she opened her apartment door, everything was on the floor. Drawers pulled out, papers torn. Her mother's medical files were gone. She felt fear crawl up her spine. Her phone rang. It was the billionaire. He heard about the break-in from security reports. He arrived within minutes with his private security team. He stepped inside her small apartment for the first time. It was nothing like his house. Thin walls, old furniture, leaking sink. He looked around slowly. This was her world. He turned to his head of security and said, "Find who did this." Within 24 hours, they traced it back to the head housekeeper. She had paid someone to scare the maid and steal the files, hoping to force her to quit. The billionaire fired her immediately and pressed charges. But that was not the unthinkable part. The unthinkable part came later that week. He invited the maid and her mother to move into the guest wing of his estate until her mother recovered. Not as servants, as protected guests. The maid tried to refuse. She did not want charity. He told her quietly, "This is not charity. This is me correcting something I ignored for too long." Weeks passed. Her mother received proper treatment. The maid grew stronger. She laughed sometimes. The house felt less cold. One evening, they sat across from each other in the large dining room. No staff. No cameras. He told her about his childhood. About his mother collapsing from overwork. About the guilt he carried for never being able to help her in time. She listened. Then she told him something simple. You did help someone. You helped me. He looked at her differently then. Not as an employee. Not as a project. But as someone who saw him beyond money. Months later, when investors asked if the rumors had been true, he answered calmly, yes, she did fall asleep in my bed. And that was the best thing that ever happened in my house. Because that was the day he stopped being just a billionaire. And started being human again. If you stayed until this moment, you now know why one simple act changed everything. Subscribe because the next story might be even more powerful.